Now all that soup of like discontent has been coming up in all these rebellions that we're seeing everywhere, protests like all around the world in all arenas of life.
Hello, fellow flames. In case we haven't met, my name is Dr. Harmony, and I will help you live fearless, live loved, and live free. Today, I have Tatiana with us with the October Astrology Energy Update, and I'm super excited. And I just have to tell you some word that dropped in as I was going to speak here, that the intention for this month, for this video, and I have no clue how, Tatiana's gonna have to back this for me, but I heard the words communion, that this month is going to be a communion with our divine inner self, between our masculine and our feminine, but not no longer individually or split, but being united and merged with the source as we become one with source throughout this fall and into October. So Tatiana, welcome. And that just flew out of my mouth. So I don't know how what you have to offer is going to back that, but I can't wait to hear.
So now that you're talking about that union, you just said this, and I was prompted to look at one of the, let's say, overarching themes that has been permeating the ascension process, and even just the way Gaia is moving, and we are all moving in this collective psyche, which is one aspect that is a small one, that it's like an ongoing one that will still be happening throughout the next few months. It's the Neptune Pluto sextile. It's a small thing, but when we tap into that inner part of ourselves and that communion, that union within, what happens is that there is really the possibility of an awakening. So I'm going to read a little passage from one of my favorite books, The Archetypal Universe by Ren Butler, my mentor as well. It says, the questing human soul, the inexorable drive to reawaken to divine consciousness, the ongoing interplay of spirit and nature, integration of the sacred and profane elements of the psyche, serenity within change. So this is the opportunity. It's like an underlying current that has been underlying the craziness, all the other layers of craziness. This is a little underlying current that says, come on, let's keep going in that path. There is that light at the end of the tunnel that connects you to the divine. However, that does require to listen, to ask, to say, I am here, I am ready. Because what's happening in the world is there's a lot of noise right now, mental noise, a lot of air in the air. We have lots of elements, lots of planets in air. So what can happen here is the mind is mega active. Thoughts, communications, ideas, blah, 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 blah. All the blah, blah is active. And the blah, blah is not bad. It's like sometimes too much blah, blah doesn't allow for that moment of nothing. What happens in between one blah and one blah? That little space of silence is where we go to actually fetch the information that is driving the evolutionary forces. What happens with all this like blah blah? It's mental clutter is one thing. Mental obsessions, ideas, thoughts, things. I have to do this, I gotta do that, I have a long to-do list and this and that. La, la, la. We have been talking about last month that Mars being in Gemini also can be extremely distracting if we cannot focus our energy and our thoughts, because there's so much going on and so many things to cater to, that then we forget to either focus or like stop and think. And what could happen also, and this is part of also an ongoing theme this month, there is a square of Mars to Neptune as well. So wherever we have Neptune in the mix, there is either that divine consciousness, is the flood of the ocean of the everything that is. And Mars, when Mars gets together with Neptune in a difficult conversation, we might be actually following what I would call a misleading spiritual quest. we might think we're going the right way, but we're actually not, because we might be following things that are not our true self. Because somebody else said something and then is the new fad. So we're going to follow that fad and it gets distracting. And then there's somebody else that sends something else. And then the information can get so confusing that we forget what it was in the first place that we were like aiming for. And that is a very possible theme this month, that we either get into confused action, literally confused action. And then there's also, the possibility of having a little bit of a blurry mind, especially the beginning of the month. There's this kind of fog, it's like when you have to go and attack, and you don't really know what you're attacking, but you're like just shooting blind. It's like, get clear. And the thing is that this fog can be very prominent because Mercury is also opposing Neptune. So it's like, get clear. And throughout the retrograde period, which was like throughout September, I hope that we all were getting more clear into tying loose ends, going back to those things that were not finished, that, how you feel that opportunity to get something finished and wrapped up. And for example, review an agreement and kind of go, okay, done, check. If you didn't do that, what happens is that this mental fog, now that Mercury goes direct, kind of carries with you. And you're like, I don't know, I'm disorganized, it's messy. The other thing, it could be that it could be leading to disillusionment, because you might have a great idea or ideal about something. It could be a spiritual ideal. And then when the fog gets lifted, you see that the reality is very different from what you thought. So at this moment, the information that is coming through is to be very in tune with those moments of silence, those breaks in between words, those breaks in between thoughts, because that's where the actual true information comes. Otherwise, we get misled, right? And right now, social media, everything in the world, like there's disruptions everywhere, information, new changes, shifts of things in the governments. Like there's so much, right? That overwhelm can carry us away from our true purpose. So use the best use of the energy at this moment in time is to get clear, no matter what. And if you have no time, you're not, if it's too much, then okay, not the time to get clear, but maybe the time to make some art with that energy, do some doodling, do some, doodle, write, get automatic writing. You're not clear, it's a bunch of information, it comes through you, you're like confused. Get clarity by throwing it out in a book and then closing the book, and later you might come back to those ideas and thoughts. So that is kind of one first energy that will be coming in this month. So make sure to follow your inner lead and not all the outer distractions. What do you have to say about that?
Well, kind of what you said about checking off your list of things to revisit, to basically whatever's not working for you, what's not going forward with you through the month of September. I went through that in great extensive, without trying. Everything presented itself for me to do that, to dot I's and cross T's. What I will say is, coming out of it, it allowed me to implement the new templates that then set me up with an inner union, to the point where I literally felt for the first time in my life the true embodiment of union inside. We know this, we talk about it, we experience it on some level, but it really took me into that union. But it became the communion and the merger of the divine inside of me. So it was really, what I would say, the embodiment. So for everyone that's been working on this, knowing this, saying this, doing this, understanding this, know that going forward, it's about embodying this. And even on layer and layer and levels deeper, to the point where you hit that place of, in everything, nothing exists, is what you're really saying. And then in the nothingness, it takes everything for nothingness. And so in that has been where I've been. That is where I see myself continuing to be led through, like, probably for the next few months, really. Because I feel like what we're doing right now is going to really emerge in the spring. And in the spring, it's going to be literally the resurrection of this. And this is another dark night, but it's dependent upon how you choose to perceive it, how you choose to look at it, how you choose to navigate it. And so this time, what I would invite people to do, what I'm doing, is everything we've learned up to this point needs to be like totally demolished, totally dissolved, totally forgotten. Every belief system and everything you've done, not just what your twin flame's done to you, but what you have learned how to navigate this. Because right now, so many people are clearing traumas. And I have to explain this. I've been sharing this over the last few days with people because it's something I've just kind of been learning as I write about healing trauma, because that's what it's all about, the earth trauma. And Julian actually helped me bring light to a way to describe it in such a way that's very beautiful. And so we're at a time right now, if you think about a chalkboard and having written on the board a picture, words, story, we need to erase everything. But when we erase it, what has happened is we can't erase the scratches that were underneath it. Those scratches represent the trauma that is reproducing itself in the homeostasis of our nervous system. And those things within our nervous system is like our nerves have been scratched. And so what's been happening is new trauma has been occurring for us to create an equal and opposite force to re-scratch on the opposite polarity of the original trauma, so that they neutralize, they harmonize, they cancel each other out. And I've literally been experiencing this in my physical state and becoming the most conscious, the most clear, the most finally sense of home and peace. But with that being said, that has also brought up new ideas, new ways to navigate, a whole new picture, one that I never would have created or designed for myself, and put in a position to say, well, now you get to choose, but it's two complete opposite pictures that you originally had. And so now it's what you're saying is coming to the clarity of which one to choose.
Yeah. We have been in this crossroad spirits for a while. It's not like a new choice. It's something that has been going on and on, that has been presenting itself throughout the past almost 2 years. And I'm going to talk again about that square between Saturn and Uranus. That square, again, this is technicality. So if you're not very proficient in astrology, that's totally fine. But what that means is that this is the last pass of that. It's been going back and forth. And we've been seeing it in the collective psyche. There is a new world being birthed, especially when it comes to our values. What do we value? How do we get our resources? What is money? What is value? What have we as a society valued? Power structures, top to bottom, what's happening to the humanity and the human component? So what's happening is this shift has been going on for 2 years already. It's happening. It's been showing itself by the old structures, no, it has to be this way. It's always been this way. And we're going to keep putting our foot down. And then this new thing saying, we can't sustain this. We're killing the earth. We're not loving each other. We're not collaborating, cooperating in order to thrive. We're literally oppressing others. The powerful people get the best, and then the poor people don't get anything, the rich versus the poor. So now all that soup of discontent has been coming up in all these rebellions that we're seeing everywhere, protests all around the world, in all arenas of life, from the the Me Too movements and the here in Canada, the residential schools, the orange shirt movement. in Iran, like the people, the farmers in the Netherlands, like, and oh, it's all of it. And I'm just mentioning a few things that I kind of pick up here and there, but this is just what the vomit of these inequalities and of our very skewed value systems, that if we don't now choose now for ourselves what are the true core of our human, what is the true core of value? And people might value different things, that's totally fine, but at the center there's something that is unique, and that is it interlaces all of us. And I'm now seeing a thread. I'm just seeing a thread of gold that is kind of weaving through the hearts of people, all people. And is that recognition that we really are not separate from each other. And if we keep harming and hurting others and overpowering them and squishing them, it's like doing that to ourselves. That is not sustaining. It's not sustainable. So I'm seeing this gold thread right now coming through saying, hey, this is the most precious thing we have, is our heart, our humanity, and our capacity to love each other. And if we follow that path and we honor that path, which is what brings you true joy, what brings you so much joy that when you share it, you see another one thrive as well, instead of trying to take from them. And this ties also into a little bit the energy of the beginning of the month, especially where we have a lot of the Libra energy. And I'm going to be showing an image right now of Libra. So you see in this image, Libra is going to be active, especially at the beginning of the month. We have Venus is in Libra. Mercury will be also going back to Libra, and the Sun is in Libra. So we will have some of this supportive energy that says, it's about the harmony that we can create with another. And that harmony can only occur when we are also in harmony with self. If we're still being selfish, which is the polarity of Aries, and not saying that Aries is bad, but self-centered in a low octave of expression is selfishness. Self-care, self-love is very different when we need to take time out for ourselves. So there is a balance. It's not like everything, like only catering and people pleasing, or only me, myself, and I, service to self. It's a little bit of both. And when we come into the Libra, we're able to either see ourselves more in others or come to agreements and also shared partnerships. The Libra archetype is the archetype of partnership and balance and harmony and beauty. When Venus is there, there is some kind of capacity to be beautifully expressing oneself, one's gifts. If you're an artist, this is a beautiful time to express your artistry. And if you're not an artist, how about using the most charming part of yourself? Also, beware of too much charm, because that could get confusing, when you have somebody charming their way into you. And again, with that Mercury, foggy, I don't know exactly where I'm going. You could be charmed like the snake charmer into something, lured into something that is not you. So this is where we need to also have feet on the ground, like solid thought about who you are. Get clear on who you are, not what people tell you are. And the only way to get that clarity is by looking at yourself. How do you look at yourself? Through others. There is a beautiful aspect. It's the trine of Pluto to Mercury at the same time that all of this is happening, that supports looking at one's self and one's shit and one's shadow. It's beautiful because we can make those changes without too much pain if we diligently do this. This is a great time, yes, for therapy, or for even just talking to your friends, Libra, because there's so much air energy and chat energy. It could be light and fluffy, talk about the weather, but you know what? If you take this time to talk about the things that really matter, what's in your heart, what's weighing you, what's painful, see yourself, ask your friends what they see in you, and be honest and truthful. Maybe your friends will tell you, with kind and love, they'll tell you, look, we've been noticing this. Oh, yeah, I can notice that. Can you have space and be compassionate towards these processes of transformation? And once you have that self analysis, self awareness, you can start actually implementing the changes. It's not just when you go to the, I don't know, the therapy and you expect it to be a magic potion that just shifts you and that's it and you do nothing. Well, no, it doesn't work like that. It works by being self aware. Okay, there's an issue. And now what can I do about it? Right? So at this moment in time, it's a great time for, again, being social. This is the Libra energy promotes being social, being with people, talking and sharing. And that is part of this. Say it helps carry the heaviness. If anything, this energy might help us carry the heavy loads of other potential difficulties that could be happening in the world, especially as that square to Saturn Uranus gets tight and tight this month, which is where we could see also a lot of, that last boot coming to say no. And then this anger. There could be a lot of anger stored. And then with anger can come frustration, anger, and destruction. So this energy is in the field. Why do people go to war? Because they feel oppressed. Why has humanity ever fought? Because they don't feel they can be themselves. They can thrive and love. There's this idea that it's the if we're not fighting, we can't. There has to be always a winner somehow. And I think this is what it's starting to end in the world as we move into a new earth. It's like this is not what works. What could happen in the collective psyche is that these energies might manifest the hard way, which is the only way sometimes we see things is by, I don't know, being hungry, having nothing, being stripped away from things. And that's part of a little bit of that Scorpio energy that we will talk towards the second half of the month, because now this is Libra, right? And now I'm going to show you the other image. So now this is the second image of what's also coming this month. It's the Scorpio energy. And in the Scorpio energy, we can clearly see our deepest attachments and fears. That's the purpose of it. And with the Scorpio season, especially towards the end of the month, what we'll be seeing is this stripping away. And sometimes the stripping away is a painful process. But there could be a supportive, it's interesting because Venus is going to be in Scorpio as well. And as Venus enters Scorpio, when is it entering Scorpio? October 23rd, right? So this is towards the end of the month. And the sun enters Scorpio on the same day, right? So it's like this shift of energy from this lighter, more beautiful, more graceful, even more about agreements into, okay, now there's a cloud coming in. So by the end of the month, the Halloweeny vibe is going to truly be there, And in this image of the Scorpio, we have the capacity to see what needs to die and embrace death in a beautiful way. So I'm going to share another image with you. And this is the image of the Venus in Scorpio archetype combined with a little bit of another aspect that is coming in this month, which is the power, the manipulation, the love of power, which is the Venus square Pluto. So we're having this image where there is so much, there's almost like beauty in death. There is beauty in pain. Venus is not comfortable in Scorpio. As you can see in this image, there's almost this woman kind of almost maybe mourning something. But that mourning has an element of dignity and beauty. It's painful, but the roses smell beautiful. They smell delicious. So yes, when we embrace, and this is part of that archetype, when we embrace death and the process of dying, of decay, with grace, this is Venus, then the process of transformation is not as devastating. It's like seeing the fall. You know, I am a Venus in Scorpio, and I love the fall. You see, everything is dying, the leaves are falling. The other thing that could happen throughout this period is because we are maybe going to see a lot of the shadow of the world, not only our own shadow. There could be that other image of that woman, which is in the same vibe, but you can see there's this look of like mystery and power. And you don't know, it's even maybe dangerous. You don't know what's lurking behind those shadows. You don't even know what's there. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What's hiding there? There could be manipulation. There could be a lot coming on at us at this moment through people, only to show us what is toxic. And when toxicity shows its ugly face, then we can embrace it and do that little dark night of the soul process again and again and remove one more layer. Where are our obsessions? That's the other layer that may come up. Obsessive thinking, obsessions, then maybe somebody comes into your life, or your twin comes back, or you're with your, and then you start having this obsessive need for codependent attachments and obsessive thinking, and and then power. And then the lower octaves of this is like, you're mine. That's the lower octave of this energy that we're seeing here. Is like, you're mine. And if you're not mine, then I will kill you kind of energy. This is the energy of it. And what this shows us is the toxicity that can come with the need to attach to things that are no longer supported. We might be feeling maybe that we're stripped from something and that we have to let it go and it has to die. And it could be things that we thought to be precious. It could be relationships. It could be money. We're in the money axis. Whenever we talk about Taurus and Scorpio, we talk money. And we've been talking about this like very unstable economic, it's like we just don't know when the things are going to tip. And then lots of people might be losing things that they thought were precious. But again, these are the illusions that we have been taught to believe. Where were we putting value? And if we are not clear on what true value is, that's what could happen. Then you get stripped from those things and then you suffer. Oh, my precious yacht, you know what I mean?
It's actually not funny, because if you were in that position, it still would be a loss.
It's a loss and it's painful. And the invitation of this energy is to look at the process of decay, death, and loss in a beautiful way. Let it go. Give it up and trust that something else is always coming that's going to be like the new little sprout. So I'm going to remove the image right now. So being stripped from something, it could be, again, money, it could be a loved one, it could be a relationship. Anything that is lost has gain on the other side. And that's what we see with the Taurus. So whenever there's a window that closes and something that is lost, it's because there is gain on the other side. There is something else that is to be gained that might not look the way we expected, but sometimes it's even better because we're not holding on to the old energy. It's like when you prune trees. I don't know if you've pruned trees before. If you don't prune the tree from its dead branches, the tree won't yield as many apples. But if you go and prune those dead branches, dead leaves, and you strip it away, and that's a painful process. Cutting that off is painful. What happens the next year? It yields many more apples. So if you see it like that, then we bring the graceful process of shedding and detaching and releasing before it's actually stripped away by force. And by force, I mean by powerful structures, power struggle, powerful people, dangerous people dangerous people that will come into your life to make it really toxic, or toxic behaviors, or your own toxic behaviors. regardless of the form it takes, this is what's going to be highlighted. And in whatever way, and in every person's chart is different. Everybody has a different makeup and a different way of reacting to these things. Some people will embrace it full on. Some people will find it extremely hard. So during these times, it's good to also find solace also in your connections and people around you, and always the inner this. We will say it time and again. If you have not watched all of our videos, we will keep repeating. This is where it all happens and where the true peace always, always lies, in the face of what might seem like chaos, because we might be seeing a lot of chaos in the collective. Just go back to presence, pure presence, and notice that around you, there's only the capacity and the possibility of new birth every moment. That is the death, rebirth struggle that all of humans go through. And through these plutonic processes, that's what it is. But it's a struggle. Death and rebirth is a struggle in itself. So I'm not saying it's easy, but it can have an element of beauty. It's like, instead of like mourning a death, you do a celebration of life. Look what different lens. And that is exactly what it is. When we put different lens on, the whole picture has a different vibe. That's not to be over optimistic and thinking that everything is roses and butterflies. No, it's more to give it a word. And now a word is coming. Hope. Hope. Hope is what comes from this. Hope. And if we have hope, everything can happen. It's not doom and gloom. Some people might be thinking that we're going to shit. The world is completely collapsing and it's doomed. It's not doomed. If we have hope, there's no doom. So that's kind of what I have to say. These are the messages. Today was a lot of more intuitive messages than a specific astrological pinpointings, but these are the messages that just came through. So I'm
beautiful. And I have one question for you. You mentioned that the square has been going on for 2 years, but it's almost over, making its last cycle around. So can you talk about the timeline of when that will be complete?
Well, that square will start waning in the next couple months. So by spring 2023, we would completely be seeing this square completely relax. And by then, we're going to start seeing more of the new, more of the new structures. Basically, whatever old has been deconstructing, we'll start seeing the new buddings by the spring, like maybe the new systems that are being born, people that are coming together to maybe have other types of exchanges. I can tell you for myself where I jumped into, and I was kind of knowing that this was coming, change and shift my life on a leap of faith, moved to a farm with people. We are a community of people that we are now farming also, as well as being together and supporting each other, growing food and exchanging, right? We exchange services, we exchange things. We're kind of already implementing a different type of relationship to economy. It's like, well, if one day the money is lacking, then what do we have? Well, we have apples. Maybe our neighbors have pears. Who knows? And we can exchange. So we already stepped into this. It's very new. It's very scary. It's been super challenging. I'm like, it's like, I don't know how to do half of the things. It's difficult. But we see the support in being in community is one thing also. And a community is not necessarily going to a specific place with people. It's more like around you. Who are the people around you that can be supportive instead of divisive, which is what we have seen? What is going to be supportive? And start getting those initiatives instead of crying over spilled milk, or it's like, or the spilled, yeah, it's like, what are the new things that we could be creating that are so exciting and that are more liberating? That's Uranus, the liberation, because we might be liberating from a big heavy dread, which is the dread of, like, the rat race and the wheel of um So I think this square starts waning. And the only thing, the other thing about this square is that this is a closing square of a big, big cycle that has been going on for like decades, you know, like I don't have off the top of my head when the first square was, but it's like we're talking huge cycles, you know.
I just want to tell you what came through to me intuitively, and I have no clue, but would be like around the 60s
Well,
is what came through to me.
there was a square in the 60s and another Saturn um maybe that's, I mean, again, I don't have it on the top of my head and I should know this, but because I don't do much of mundane astrology, so I don't take track of all the worldly events. But yes, definitely in the 60s there was some of this aspects happening. And this
To me, it feels like that was the opening portal, and this is like the closing portal of those timelines.
Something like that.
Or,
Yeah,
and maybe not the closing portal, but the trajectory of the other side opening up and expanding on that side.
Yeah, and I think I will owe you the exact dates. Yeah, so I will owe you those dates. So for next video, I'll look that up and give you the exact. Right now, I don't have it off the top of my head, and I don't want to tell you something that's whatever, you know. But know that this is a closing of a big cycle. It's a closing where something completely different in a new society is being really birthed, completely leaving behind certain trends and tendencies. Around again, top to bottom structures, power, and yeah, and the way we create, we get our resources, and the way we feed ourselves, and the way we exchange is a big economic overhaul, big one, not small one, huge one, and which will give us more freedom in the end. That is the hope. Again, the hope. So this is what I leave you with, and I gotta go.
So thank you. And I want to remind everyone that Tatiana is amazing to work with for evolutionary astrology readings. You can check out all the ways to glow forward with her and to book a reading in the links below. And we will see you next month for the November report. And may you always face your fears, find freedom, go forward on fire. And don't forget to comment, share the shine, and like. And we'll see you next time. Namaste.